Okay, good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Don't worry, we'll be done in time. It's a beautiful. Yeah, we got some Givaldic Geschmack Torah. Yeah. Okay, Givaldic. We're at the bottom of Ayin Chesed Beis at a new Mishnah, and as you can see, it's a relatively normal-looking blot Daf Ayin test, and we're also going to learn Pei Amud Aleph until the top. We'll wrap around Emir Hashem to the top of that page, and on Shabbos we're actually learning early. Just to accommodate, I know my wife certainly wants to go to that shiur that Rabbi Robinson's giving at 4:15. We're going to have Mincha after the 2:30. We're going to have Daf Yomi after the 2:30 Mincha, Emir Hashem. Grunt noted. Shalom bayis ola al kula. So considering how many times she lets me come to share, okay, we're late. Let's go. Says the Gemara on the bottom of Ayin Chesed Beis Gevaldik Mishnah. Niskavin la'arogas habehema v'haragas adam. I took out my bow and arrow, my axe, my machete, and I was intending on killing an animal. Unfortunately, inadvertently, I killed a human. Or la'obed kochavim v'haragas Yisrael. Or linefalim, a person was killing Rachmana Litzlan. He aimed to kill a child who was a mace. Whatever. It's a ghost-ace. The child was not going to survive. A nefel is a child that doesn't live past day 30. But inadvertently, Vaharagas ben Kayama, he killed that perfectly healthy child. In all of these cases, you're putter because of your kavana. What were you intending to do, and what did you do? We're now going to learn the remainder of this Mishnah with a lot of nuances of different iterations of this case. Niskavein lahakoso almosnav. I intended with my baseball bat to hit someone on their leg, on their thigh. I wanted to give him a dead leg. And I was going to hit him hard, but velohaya bakde lahamiso almosnav. But then v'holcha Allah alibo. When I swung, he ducked, and I hit him in the heart. And let's just, on a scale of 1 to 10, if I hit him on the thigh with an 8 out of 10 power, that's not going to kill him. 8 out of 10 power on the heart will kill him. So says the Gemara, but why? Because what was my kavana? My intention was to hit you in the leg. You ducked. I didn't know. I didn't intend on killing the person, so you're putter. Niskavin lahakoso, third example, bottom line on Chesed Beis. Niskavin lahakoso alibo, intended to hit a person in their heart. Kidei v'hayaba, top of my testament, v'hayaba kidei lahamis alibo. If I hit him with a 7 out of 10 on his heart, and I didn't, but v'halcha la al masna v'lo hayaba kidei lahamis al masna. So that 7 out of 10, hitting him on the leg wouldn't kill him, but still umeis pater, because I wasn't intending on killing you. There. Very important addition. Thank you. Fourth case. I was planning on hitting a big person. And this 7 out of 10 wouldn't kill a big person, but 7 out of 10 won't kill an adult, but 7 out of 10 will kill a child. I intended on hitting the adult, instead hit the child, Rahmana Litzlan, and the child dies pater. Not what I intended. Fifth case. I intended on hitting a child. I hit him with a 7 out of 10. I tried to kill the kid, but inadvertently, al hagadol, and instead I took that 7 out of 10 swing of the baseball bat. It wasn't really enough to kill him, but he actually died anyways. Maybe shock, whatever the case may be. Pater. Aval. Here's our first contrast point in the Mishnah. So far, everything's been pater. Aval. I hit him in the thigh. I hit him a 9 out of 10 on the thigh, which could kill him. So here, you really hit him very hard. No matter where you would have hit him, he would have died. So then if the location where the bat lands changes, it doesn't matter at that point. You're chayiv. And here, we're going to see a machlokas. I intended on hitting a big guy. And there was enough to kill that big guy. The Tanakama holds that if you're swinging for the big guy and it would have killed him, but you inadvertently hit a child and killed him, you're chayiv. Reb Shimon Omer, afilu, and this we don't know what this means yet. Afilu niskavin laharog es zeh v'harak es zeh pater. This language, this syntax doesn't really fit for that, and the Gemara is going to pick up on this in a moment. This is a weird iteration. The language is weird that he said. That if you intended on killing Shimon and you killed Reuven, you're pater. Which means that my diuk would have been in all the cases that we just mentioned where you wanted to kill the gadol and instead you killed the katan, or vice versa, you should be pater. Yet the shita right before says chayiv. So we have to see what exactly Reb Shimon is talking about. Asks the Gemara. 1/3 of the way down on Ayin Testament, Reb Shimon ahaya. We just learned 5 cases in the Mishnah, 6 cases in the Mishnah. What was Reb Shimon talking about? Ilema aseifa. If what you want to say is it's talking about the case that his shita immediately follows, which was 4 lines before the Gemara begins of niskaven lahakos esagadol v'haybakdei lahamis esagadol, where the Tanakama said chayev. Then just say Reb Shimon poter. What's with the weird additional language in the Mishnah of afilu niskaven laharog? Says the Gemara, Reb Shimon poter mi boile. Why would it say something else? Ella. That's not what Reb Shimon's responding to. What in the Mishnah did Reb Shimon mean when he said, Niskaven laharog ezeh v'harag ezeh pater? Says the Gemara, Aresha. He's going all the way back to the beginning of the Mishnah and disagreeing with that sheet of the Tanakama. What happened over there? Niskaven laharog ezeh behema v'harag ezeh adam. Lovid kochavim v'harag ezeh Yisrael l'nefal v'harag ezeh ben kayama. I intended on killing a behema or killed a person. I intended on killing an oved kochavim and instead killed a Jew. I intended on killing a nefel and instead killed bar kayama. The Tanakama held pater. Listen to the diuk. Now, the Tanakama held, obviously he held that if your intention was to kill one and you then killed the other, you would be chayev. Reb Shimon Omer, afilu niskavin larog ezeh v'harag ezeh pater. Reb Shimon says you're pater in all cases where person number 1 was your intent and you hit person number 2 and they died. That is sugya number 1, is where does the din of Reb Shimon... What?
What? We said you were Niskaven Haragis Yisrael and Lovi Kochavim and you Haragis Yisrael. So you obviously hit the wrong person. Niskaven Haragis Haragis Achai. What's really the difference between Yisrael and Napoli and Zeh and Zeh? I'm not following the deal of Kochavim.
That's where Rashi comes in. Let's take a look at Rashi. I meant to mark that off in my Gemara, but I didn't. Says the Gemara, so I intended on killing, let's say, Ruvain, or let's say, well, actually, we can't say the case of the Goy, but because there's no chiyuv there. But let's say we're talking about Ruvain and Shimon. Right, but the first person there was hasras vadaihu, and then v'harages zeh chayev diika hasra al ben bris v'harimis kaven the ben bris v'hargo.
So the real problem,
the diuk is that when we're not talking about that's true. That's an element of it, but that's not this sugya. The din over here, it's not hasra safek; it's hasra on the wrong person. The hasra you got was on Ruvain, so if you kill Ruvain, you're done.
Right.
The Tanakama holds, even if you got Hasra and Ruvain, you're still chayav on Shimon.
Same sort of person.
What?
Because they're the same sort of person.
They're the same sort of person. That's the diuk. The diuk is against the case of a ben bris and a goy or a akum, whatever. Yeah.
Sort of person. All short is not really a different.
Right, person. But oved kochavim and.
Thank you.
So says the what? And Reb Shimon says, because your hasra was for Ruvain and not for Shimon. We're going to get more into the details here. And that's where the second part of this sugya picks up, which is Pshita, Pai Ruvain Vishimon. Let's say I have my machete and I see these 2 Jews, Ruvain and Shimon. The Omar, Ana the Ruvain kamechavna, the Shimon lo kamechavna. Ruvain, I'm out for you. Hainu plugtaihu. That is the exact case where we have our machlokas, and that was exactly what we just articulated. That does the hasra that is given for when I say I want to kill Ruvain apply even if I kill Shimon? Tanakama says chayev, Reb Shimon says pater. Amar, what if I, the murderer, didn't say Ruvain or Shimon? I said l'chad minay, I'm killing one of you. Is that sufficient? Does hasra work in a broad sense, where I'm not sure if I'm going to kill Ruvain or Shimon, and then somebody says to me, Phil, if you kill either of them, you're going to be chayev. Does that hasra work? My inami, another case before we start to answer it is kasava Ruvain v'nimtza Shimon mai. I thought the guy I was killing was Ruvain, but it was actually Shimon. Does the hasra work in that case as well? Now that latter case actually sounds like the actual initial case of where we have our machlokas, but the Gemara doesn't feel that way. Anyways, the Gemara says Tashma. Let's see. The Tanya we have a brisa. Reb Shimon Omer ad sheyomar leploni ani miskavein. Says the Gemara, no, none of this broad l'chad minayhu stuff. Reb Shimon holds that you will only be chayev if the hasra that was given was for a very specific person. Leploni ani miskavin. My time Reb Shimon. Why? Gosh, state in the pasuk. Says the Gemara halfway down, more 2/3 of the way down. Amar Kra, the pasuk says ve'arav lo v'kamalov. He ambushed him and stood on him. Ad sheyiskavin lo. The only time we're ever going to have a chiyuv is when it is for that person. So what did our Mishnah talk about? Our Mishnah had a diuk at least that spoke about if it's for that guy and not for that guy, Rav Shimon says you're pater. Why? Because it's a diuk in the pasuk. Ad sheyiskavin lo. What did the Rabbanan do with that pasuk? V'Rabbanan Amre debei Rav Yanai prat lezorek even lago. They say no. They say what does the pasuk mean when it says v'arav lo v'kam alav? Says the Gemara, in the name of the Rabbanan, why would they say you're still chayiv? The pasuk was only coming to remove if I randomly throw a rock into a crowd, then you're pater. But if I am in that middle ground of I want to kill either of you and I kill one of them, they'll still say you're chayiv. The act of random violence, he holds you're still pater. You shoot a bullet into a crowd. You weren't intending on anyone. Someone says, don't shoot a bullet into the crowd. Hasra. If you kill someone, you're going to die. Even there, if you're Zorek Evan Lago, you're just throwing something into the crowd. By the way, let's just play that out. If somebody shoots a gun into the crowd indiscriminately and they got a hasra, the Rabbanan would hold your pater based on the pasuk of the Orav Lovo Kamalav, and their diuk is Prat Zorek Evan Lago. But again, in that middle ground case, the Rabbanan would hold your chayv. Ruvain or Shimon, that's narrow enough. They hold that that's enough to be a real hasra. Hechidami, what's the case? Ilema, that when the person threw the rock or shot a gun into a crowd, diikatisha kusim ve'echad Yisrael beinein, 9 kusim and 1 yid, tepukle the ruba kusim. You should be pater because we know that by an akum there is no chiyuv misa, there's no capital punishment, but the one Jew means that he's a minority, and the rov is kusim sir pater. If that's true, well, that's just because of ruba. Inami palga upalga. If half the room is yid and half the room is an akum, Safik nefashas lahakel. Mimanashach you'd be pater. So what is the case of Zorik Evan Lagom? Says the Gemara mechudash to answer. Says the Gemara 10 lines from the bottom. The case is where there are 9 Yisraelim and 1 kusi. So what would we have thought in this case? We would have said rov, no? We would have said you're chayiv. This is where the Gemara has a chiddush. What the Rabbanan are saying about the case of Zorek Evan Lago, if somebody throws a rock into a crowd, that you're chayiv, what does that mean? Dahavale kusi kavua. We treat, lotzricha deikatisha Yisrael, yes, v'kusi echa benin. There's 9 Jews and 1 goy. And we don't say rov in this case. We say that the kusi is ki'ilu kavua. That means that he's a fixed part of this thing, and then whenever you have kavua, v'chol kavua kemechtzal mechtzadami, and that is where the case kicks in. That's the chiddush of the Gemara, that he is going to be considered a kusi, and it's considered kemechtzal mechtzadami. So that's what the Rabbanan would say. Next part of this shita of Reb Shimon, Bishlama the Rabbanan. I understand the rabbis. Da'amre, they hold niskavin larog ezev harag ezechayim. I could understand the upcoming pasuk that the Rabbanon say that if I intended to kill Reuven and I killed Shimon, that you're chayiv anashim, men are fighting. V'nagvu ishahara, and they hit a woman who's pregnant, and then she lost a child. V'amar Rebbe Lazar, b'matzus shebemisa kasu medaber. They're having a fist fight to the death. So then I understand. What do the Rabbanon hold? That you're chayiv. I intended on killing X, I killed Y, you're chayiv. I understand. That's what the pasuk says. How does Reb Shimon learn that pasuk? The pasuk seems to say that it's talking about capital punishment. So if that's true, Elul Reb Shimon, my avidle. According to Reb Shimon, you should be pater. But the way the pasuk is formulated, and we say the next pasuk is imason yihye v'nasata nefesh tachas nefesh. Reb Shimon, you have a pasuk against you. The pasuk says we trade a soul for a soul. You killed the wrong person. We're going to kill you with a capital punishment. Elamai, what should we say? So it says the Gemara, like we see in many cases. We remember, in the Torah we say ayin tachas ayin, shein tachas. It's not. What do we say? That's mominous. Says the Gemara here too. Mamon. Reb Shimon will say that when the pasuk says v'nasata nefesh tachas nefesh, nefesh tachas nefesh, I think is the pasuk. No, yeah. So then the Gemara says that's mominous, And he has precedence in the Tanaim. Where does he have this? Says the Gemara, Uchad the Rebbe, 3 lines from the bottom. The Tanya, we have a brisa. Rebbe Omer. Rebbe says, "V'nasata nefesh tachas nefesh."
I have remote in my house.
What?
Rev remote is at my house apparently.
The Tanya, we have a brisa that supports the sheet of Reb Shimon. Rabbi Omer, "V'nasata nefesh tachas nefesh mamon." Ah, beautiful. Reb Shimon is not making stuff up. We shouldn't have assumed he was, and we didn't. But the Gemara says Rebbe writes this in a brisa. The pasuk says "V'nasata nefesh tachas nefesh." What does it say? Mamon. This is gorgeous. The question you asked on Reb Shimon completely dissolves. What do you mean "V'nasata nefesh tachas nefesh"? He says it's money. Ata Omer mamon. The brisa continues. You're trying to say mamon oeinu ela nefesh mamish. How do you know what it is? Says the Gemara. Rebbe has a mari makom. Don't worry. Namra nesina lamata. What this is talking about is the two psukim that we just saw. That pasuk ends with v'nasan biflilim. He has to give. He has to pay for his crimes. And the next pasuk also says v'nasata nefesh tachas nefesh. So v'nasata, just like the nesina by the baby that was killed in that case, you pay biflilim, you pay v'nasan, you give money. So it's over here. So we have a beautiful marimakom. Okay, next. Top of Ayin Testament base, second line. Amar Rava. Hi, the Tana de Bechizkiya, mafkami de Rebbe, umafkami de Rabbana. Says the Gemara, we have a problem because the brisa that we're about to see doesn't work for Rebbe or the Rabbana. Now remember the shitas that we just learned. We had the shita of Rebbe that v'nasato nefesh tachas nefesh means mamanis. And we had the sheet of the Rabbanan that the person is going to be chayiv if he was intending on horeg zen, he killed the other person. He intended on killing Reuven and he killed Shem, and he's chayiv. What is this weird marimakum that fits with neither of them? So that's as follows. 3 lines down. The Tana de Bechizkiya, we have a brisa. This brisa will be found in another 5-6 blot. We'll learn it again. The pasuk says makeh adam umakeh behema. Let's learn the whole pasuk. The pasuk says vayikra chav dalet makeh behema yishal mena. Umakeh adam yumas. So the way it's quoted in the Gemara is actually not how the pasuk is formulated. That happens all the time. Let's translate. Umakeh behema yishalamena. If one damages a behema, he pays. Umakeh adam yumas. And if a person kills a human, he has to be killed himself. Look at the drasha. Ma makeh behema. This is a very difficult brisa to read with one part. Well, most of it's easy. One part is very difficult. Let's read the easy parts. Ma maka behema. When a person kills an animal, lo chalakta ba ben shogeg lemezid, then you're going to have to pay money whether or not it was shogeg or mezid, ben miskaven l'shen miskaven, whether or not you intended to do so. Ben derech yirida l'derech aliyah. We don't care if your hand motion was going upward with the knife or downward. Lepotro. It's not going to say that that your lepotro mamon, that you're going to be exempt from paying ela lechayvo mamon. That's what the pasuk says. The pasuk says yishal mena. Af. So too, the same thing is true with makeh adam. What does that mean? When a person kills a man, you're going to be killed no matter what. Says the Gemara, lo tachlok. There should be no distinction. Bein shogeg lemezid. You're put to death whether or not you kill with shogeg or mezid. Bein miskaven l'shein miskaven. Bein derech yirida b'lederech aliyah. We don't care what way you were carrying the knife, carrying it up or carrying it down. If you killed him, so what we would say l'chayv mamon, you're not going to be chayv mamonis in such case. Ela lepotro mamon. Why would you be putter with damages when you kill someone because of kamei b'derava minei, which is the well-known principle that we learned. So now the Gemara is bothered by this. What do you mean? My she'ein miskaven. Ilema she'ein miskaven klal. What did the brisa mean? Let's look at the syntax of the Gemara of the brisa. It said bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid, and then bein miskaven and l'she'ein miskaven. Those are the same thing. Says the Gemara, ilema, that the word she'ein miskaven means she'ein miskaven klal. I had no intention on killing that person. Hainu shogeg. Then they're the same. And now the Gemara comes up with its beautiful point to show that Tana de Bechizkiya is not like the Rabbanan or Rebbe. Ella, says the Gemara 10 lines down on Ayin Testament base. Pshita, she'ein miskaven lazeh ella lazeh. Beautiful. What are we talking about now? She'ein miskaven means I intended on killing Ruvain, and instead I killed Shimon. V'ktani l'chayvo mamon ella lepotra mamon. Says the Gemara that we're not going to say that you're chayav money, but rather you're putter from paying money because of kamei b'derava minei. Says the Gemara, v'ibar ktalahu. If in fact he was a bar katala, so then why do I need to pater him from money? We already know he's chayiv misa. Elalav, says the Gemara, Shma mina lav bar katalahu, v'lav bar mamonahu. According to Tana de Bechizkiah, in a case of intending on killing Ruvain and accidentally or inadvertently killing Shimon, this Tana holds you're pater from mamonis and from being killed. So now we have a three-way machlokes tanoim. This requires a chart. In a case of intending on killing Reuven and killing Shimon, we have the shita of the Rabban on the Tanakama that you are chayiv. We have the shita of Reb Shimon that you are pater for the misa but chayiv in any damages and mamonis. And over here we have the unique shita of Tana de Bechizkiah that you're pater from everything, which is just a very difficult shita to understand. We would need Rishonim to interpret this, but we have no time for that. Let's just remember that we have a three-way machlokas as to the case of intending on killing Ruvain and instead killing Shimon. Let's say that the murderer, Rotseach, was Shenis Arev Be'acherib, starting a new Mishnah 1/3 of the way down. The guy who killed got mixed up with other people. What's the halacha? Kulan Pturin. Okay, that makes sense, right? If the murderer gets mixed up with other people, we're not going to kill all the other people, except for the fact that Rabbi Yehuda says we kill all the other people. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, konsen osan lekipa. We put them all inside the kippah. What does this mean? Without Rashi, we'd be lost. Rashi, 2/3 of the way down. The second one into the Mishnah, Dibur Masal, konsen osan lekipa. Look at this. V'sham ma'achilin osan se'oran ad shetibaka kreson. We feed them barley until their stomachs explode. We will learn about this over Shabbos Im Yirtzeh Hashem. So again, my Rotseach gets mixed up with other people. Tanakam holds pater. Yehuda says, kill him. We kill him in a non-capital punishment kind of way, and we'll have to see why that's true, because what if the other people were innocent?
Does it say it's an ace from Shemaim that the murderer is the one who gets killed and nobody else does?
No, they all die. Rabbi Yehuda holds they all die. That's going to be the Gemara's question in a minute. Why is that fair? We're going to discuss that in a minute. Cliffhanger. Says the Gemara, in fact, kol chayve misos, let's say we had multiple people who were chayv misa. Shenis arvu zebazeh, let's say we'll see soon, people who are chayv skila, people who are chayv sreifa, nidonin bekala. We give the lowest of the capital punishments that are due. So there's 10 guys, and the guy who I know is chayav skila, he's mixed in, or they're twins, whatever. I can't tell them apart. So, but they're both chayav misa. We give the collective group the lower of the misos that are chayav. And take a look at this. And now we're going to go back to our long-standing machlokas between Reb Shimon and the Rabbanan about what our order is of highest to lowest capital punishments. We know the Tanakama holds skila, sreifa, hereg, and chenek. And Reb Shimon holds it's sreifa skila, chenek hereg. So says the Gemara. Halfway down, we're in the Mishnah now. Haniskalin bin Yisrafin. Let's say people who were chayiv skila got mixed up with people who are chayiv sreifa. So obviously, if what we're saying is that we always give the lower punishment, we should anticipate a machloket between Tanakama and Reb Shimon because they disagree on what is higher and what is lower. Therefore, Reb Shimon Omer, that because sreifa is a higher onesh, then nidon and beskila, the lower of the two. Shehas sreifa chamura. The chachamim, they hold skila is worse. Omrim nidon and bisreifa because shehas skila chamura. Kamuvan. Amar lehen Reb Shimon. Now, let me articulate why I hold what I hold. Why does Reb Shimon hold that sreifa is worse than skila? They all sound bad to me. They're versions of bad. We learned all of this.
And not because of the misos.
That what?
The limud was from what you do to deserve them, what seems worse, not what seems more violent to us.
No, for sure, that way, for sure.
So but now he's about to.
But you'll see the svara that he gives. Amar lahen Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon says to the Rabbanan, why do you say skila is chamura? I'll show you why sreifa is chamura. Ilu lo hayasa sreifa chamura lo nisna labas kohen shezinsa. He says the Torah gives a chiddush of an onesh to this girl. You were mechalel your father. Amr the Chachamim said, I mean, if you're going to go that route, I can give you a host of examples of people who did terrible things that they're getting punished for. But it's apples and oranges. You get to say that the Kohen Shezinsa is worse than an Ovei Kochavim? I don't know. Ovei Kochavim is pretty bad. It's one of the Sheva Mitzvos B'nai Noach. It's one of the 10 Commandments. It's
pretty fundamental, right?
It's pretty fundamental. I mean, like when we talk stam, we always say skila straight Harag Chenek. Reb Shimon's a chiddush. Okay. Anyways, the Gemara leaves the machlokas. The Mishnah leaves the machlokas right there, and it goes on to another case of people who of chayvei misos who get mixed up. Hanehergen b'nechnakin. The people who require hereg get mixed up with people who require chenek. Same machlokas. Reb Shimon Omer b'sayif. He says that they get hereg b'chachamim or b'chenek, that they get strangled. Same machlokas. Asks the Gemara, and this was what I was hinting to text before. Man acherim. Look back at the first line of the Mishnah. The murderer gets mixed up with acherim. Who are the acherim? Ilema acherim ksherim. Pshita that you wouldn't be chayav, that you'd be patur. They didn't do anything wrong. And okay, it ends up being that the guy who was a rotzeach got off scot-free. That's true. But that's because you can't kill 9 innocent people. That's pashut. The Su says the Gemara, I'll tell you another reason why I know it's not acherim. Because then the Shita Reb Yehuda makes no sense. The Su, if it's true that the other people that the Rotzeach got mixed up in were ksherim, the ha lemer Reb Yehuda konsen osan the kippah? If they were innocent, Reb Yehuda is going to say, go into the room and eat barley till your stomachs explode? They're innocent. They didn't do anything wrong. So the Rotzeach, you know what he does? He walks into the local restaurant and sits down and blends in with the crowd. They know he's in the building. They don't know which one he is. He's patur. So is everybody else. Rabbi Yehuda says they get killed. They're all innocent. So therefore, the Gemara says, Siman Beis Shin Reish Kuf. Therefore, Amar Rabbi Abahu, Amar Shmuel, and here we're going to see a host of answers. Hacha berotzeach shalom nigmar dino shenitzar barotzchem acherim shenigmar dino naskina. We're not talking about ksherim. We're talking about a rotzeach where his gmar din was not yet finished. He was in court. He didn't get a psak from the bezdin that he's chayv misa, and he got mixed up with rotzchem who had a gemar din. Then the Rabbanan Savre ein gomrim dino shel adam elabafanav hilkach kulam turin. It's not fair. That guy he's patur because that guy, the rotzeach, is not yet chayiv, and we can't kill him without a gemar din. So he paters the other people who are chayiv. It's completely the opposite of what we thought. It's not talking about a case of a rotzeach who got mixed up with ksherim. It's talking about a rotzeach whose Gemar Din had not yet kicked in, with a group of Rotzchim whose Gemar Din had kicked in. But we can't kill all of them. We can't kill any of them because the first guy had no Gemar Din. Rabbi Yehuda, what does he hold? Miftarinu legamre, nami lo, came with the Rotzchim inhu. You can't. They're all Rotzchim. They're all Rotzchim. And this guy's a Rotzeach too. We just didn't get the Gemar Din yet. Hilkach konsen osan the kippah. We can't give out a typical punishment, but we will make sure they all die. Because they're all rotzchim, they're all murderers. That's answer number 1 as to how we understand our Gemara. Answer number 2, Reish Lakish Amar, Ba'adam dekule alma lo pligi diptiri. Everyone agrees that if we were talking about a person, everyone agrees you're patur. Aval hacha in our Mishnah, when it says that a rotzeach was nis'are be'acherem, Rav Ashi completely turns the tables and says we're not talking about a person at all. Says the Gemara, what we're talking about is v'hacha b'shor shalom nigmar dino b'shenis ari b'shvarim acherem shenigmar dina kamif. We're not talking about people at all. We're talking about shvarim. This shor was a shor in Iskal, but it no gmar din, and it got mixed up with animals where there was a gmar din. And this is kamiflage where they argue 4 lines from the bottom. Ayin Testament Beis. Rabbanan Savre Kimisas Bailam Kach Misas Shor. The way we would treat human beings is the way we treat animals. Ve'in Gomrim Dino Shel Shor El Bafana. Vilkach Kulam Turn. Same svar as before. That since by people, if the Rotzeach got mixed up with other people, his Gmar Din was not done, he can't be killed, so no one else can be killed. The same is true by the animal. And since the animal ran away and can't be found, he's patur because there was no Gmar Din on that Shor and Niskal. So he's not really a Shor and Niskal. Rabbi Yehuda Sabar Konton Asan Kippah, all the animals get killed. Amar Rava, I disagree with you, and now we're getting to our third shita. Amar Rava, ihachi, if what you're saying is true, if you're saying that we have the answer of Rabbi Abo in the name of Shmuel that we're talking about, that maybe our Mishnah is talking about Rotzeach Shalom Nigmar Dino with Rotzchim Shenigmar Dino and he got mixed in. You want to say that? Or you want to say answer number 2 of Reish Lakish that we're talking about animals, then the problem is, we have a problem because on our Mishnah we had a brisa that fits with neither of those shitas. That's what Rashi says. Rashi says, "Ihachi had tani Allah bein l'Reish Lakish bein l'Shmuel kamosiv." This question applies to everybody. What's the problem? What does the Brisa say? Amar Rabbi Yosef, afilu ibn Chalafta b'neihen. Even if Ibn Chalafta, who was a big tzaddik, even if he was there, the halachos would still apply. Well, it can't be talking about Reish Lakish because Reish Lakish was talking about Shvarim. So Ben Chalafta is now a shor. He's a big tzaddik Talmud Chacham. It also can't be talking about the case of Rotzchem because Ibn Chalafta was also not a murderer. So therefore, Rava says that neither of your answers work for the pshat in our Mishnah. Let's go back to our Mishnah. What are we talking about with the acherim? There's a murderer who gets mixed up with acherim. So what's the case? Says the Gemara, Amar Rava hachi kamar. Totally different genre of discussion. Shneim shayu omdin. I'm standing with David. One of us shot an arrow and we both deny it. V'harag, and that goes into the heart of a person and kills that person, Rachmana litzlan. David and I are patur, Shneim Pturin. What's the chiddush of Rabbi Yossi? Rabbi Yossi, afilu abba chalaft b'nein. If David's a big tzaddik, and everybody knows that David would never do that, and I am a questionable human being, even though that's true, we're still both patur. That's what Rava says is happening in our Mishnah. Now let's read it back into our Mishnah. Ayin Testament Beis in the middle. I'm a murderer. I'm mixed up with David. Kulam Pturim. That's what the Tanna Kama holds. What does Rabbi Yehuda hold? Konsen Osan the Kiba. Both of us have to die. Which, by the way, that's a very difficult shita now, because one of us is pashut innocent. Okay, but that's not our discussion for today. But so the Gemara pivots that case into what about a shor who has a gemar din who gets mixed up with shvarim that are healthy? Soklin Osan, they all get killed. Rabbi Yehuda Omer konsen Osan the kippah. No, this is, by the way, not our gemara. This is a different sugya. This is just the brayz of Abba Chalafta. And Vehatanya, and this Vehatanya, Rashi points out halfway down is Bini Chusa. This is always difficult in learning when the same exact phrase is sometimes a bitmia and sometimes a Bini Chusa. So Rashi is often very helpful in these cases, and he adds this words. This Vehatanya is supportive to this idea that we just learned, this machlokes that we just articulated from our Mishnah. Let's see it here. The first case of this brisa we're about to learn is not our case, but the second case is. If there is a cow that killed, and then and it's a shor niskal now because it killed, and then the cow delivered a child, a calf. If before the gemar din of shor haniskal was applied to this shor, the animal gave birth, because the shor haniskal psak was not in place yet, and the animal was born before, no problem. Because what's our concern with the shor niskal? Aser ba'ana. Shor niskal is aser ba'ana. So if the shor gives birth and then the next day gets the nigmar hadin, gets the gemar din of becoming aser b'ana, that the baby is mutter, the calf is mutter. Im mishen nigmar dina yalda, then vlada aser. If the baby was born after the gemar din, well, now that the gemar din on the shor is shor haniskal, so therefore vlada aser. That's not our case. Now here's our case. Halfway down, just about pei amud aleph. Says the Gemara, nisarev be'acherem. If everything gets mixed up, konsen osan l'kipa, then the Tanakama says that's Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says they all get killed. Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon Omer, mevin osan the bezin v'soklin osan. So this is exactly what we saw 5 lines from the top in the case of shor shenigmar dino shenisar b'shvar mecher ma'alya. Soklin osan, the Tanakama said. So this machlokes is reflected there. Just see what time it is. Yeah, we should push a little bit just to finish out this sugya. We'll get to the 2 dots at the top of the page. Says the Gemara as follows, 2/3 of the way down. Amar Mar, let's analyze the brisa that we learned. Now, up till now, we've been talking about our case. Now we're changing gears because the first part of that brisa, where we quoted Para Shehimisa Ba'achar Kach Yalda, that is the case that we're going to analyze. Amar Mar, let's analyze what we learned. Imat Shalom Nigmar Dina Yalda Vladamutter, we said that before the animal that killed got a psak of being a shor haniskal, well, because it's not yet aser behanaz shor niskal, so vlada mutter. And here's what the Gemara says: Be'afal gab dechinagcha havas miabra. Even though at the time of the killing she was pregnant, the cow was pregnant with the calf, we still say that calf is mutter. How is that possible? Ve'amar Rava vlad hanogachas aser he vivlada nagcha. We treat the child as the mother. So even though the animal was born, the calf was born before the Gemar Din, but when the mother gets the Gemar Din of Shor and Niskal, it transfers over to the child. And similarly, says the Gemara, Vlad hanirbas aser. If a Vlad was a nirba, it was sodomized, aser. He vivlada nirbu. Let me say this again. The shore was nirbas. I said it wrong the first time. Vlad hanirbas aser. There's an animal that was nirba. The Vlad of that animal is aser. He vivlada nirbu. Even though the one who did the sodomizing only sodomized the mother cow, but the one in utero is an equal. So we have a very hard time understanding our Gemara, because what was implied from the Bryce at the top of the page, Rava points out, is that the Vlad has the same din of the mother. So how can you say that if the Vlad is born before the animal is a shor haniskal, that the child is mutter? Whatever the status is of the mother, the status is of the child. I don't care when the Gemara din is. So then the Gemara gives an answer. Ema, what it should say is this: Ima shelo nigmar dina, ibra v'yalda v'lada mutter. Says the Gemara, after the action, after the murder, the cow conceived and had a baby, then the Vlad is mutter. But because Rava pointed this out and he's right, had it been that the cow was pregnant when it killed, you're right. The Vlad would not be mutter. When the Bryce at the top of the page says that the Vlad is mutter, that's only in the following sequence of events. The shore killed, the shore got pregnant, the shore had a baby, the shore was then paskin to be a shor niskal. Then the Vlad is mutter, no problem, because that Vlad was not in utero when the shore killed. Imishenigmar dina ibra vlada aser. But if after the Gemar din the cow conceived, then pashut it's aser because it's a shor niskal and it's aser bano. Last line of the page. Well, it depends. There's a machlokes elsewhere in Shas. This machlokes is in Avodah Zarah. It's in Psachim. We saw it a long time ago, and in Chulin and in Tamura. We'll see it again. I don't remember learning this. It's not surprising. I understand if you hold Zev Zeh Gorim Aser. Zeh, the father of the shore of the Vlad, and is going to just be kafuf to the mother of the Vlad, who's now a shor niskal. If it's Aser, then I understand all of this. However, turning to the top of Pamid Beis, according to those who say that even if the mother's guilty, but if the father's innocent, if the par is innocent, then the Vlad is kosher, ma'ika l'meimar. Then we don't have a way to interpret our Gemara. So says the Gemara, Elo Amar Avina, Ema, we need to change our case yet again. And we're going to close with this answer at the two dots. Imad shelo nigmar dina, up until the time that the Gemar din happened, Ibra v'yalda v'lada mutter, like we said. If the baby was conceived between the crime and the psak of shor haniskal, no problem. V'imad shelo nigmar dina Ibra, umishe nigmar dina yalda vlada asar, because uber yerach imohu. Says the Gemara, according to the shita of zev ezek gorim mutter, I agree that it would have been the case, except that it must be that if you hold zev ezek gorim mutter, you must also hold, in order for the Bryce to make sense, that ubar is yerech imohu. They are mamish one and the same. It's the same flesh. They're connected. They're one, and therefore we make no distinctions. One way or the other, we now have two pshatim in the Bryce from the top of the page that spoke about this idea about how the child of a shor niskal may or may not be pater based on the time mutter, based on the time that they were born. We're going to stop right here. Mir Hashem will pick up with Daf Yomi on Shabbos after the 2:30 mincha. Wishing you all a beautiful